Xi Jinping stresses efforts to build higher-level pilot free trade zones to break new ground and tackle tough challenges. China expresses dissatisfaction with the EU's decision to launch an anti-subsidy probe into Chinese electric vehicles. And we look at how Hangzhou is focusing on green energy and sustainability to create the first ever carbon-neutral Asian Games. From CGTN headquarters here in Beijing, this is Global Business. I'm Michelle Vandenberg. Chinese President Xi Jinping has stressed efforts to build higher-level pilot free trade zones, or FTZs, to pioneer the breaking of new ground and tackling tough challenges. A conference was held in Beijing on Tuesday to mark the 10th anniversary of the construction of the pilot free trade zone in China. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng conveyed Chinese President Xi Jinping's instructions during the meeting. President Xi said pilot zones in China have led many landmark and institutional innovation achievements in the past 10 years and effectively driven comprehensive reform and new test platforms. Xi Jinping said China should summarize the past experience of pilot free trade zones for the future and strive to upgrade strategies to build higher-level pilot free trade zones. He also said that China should uphold the party's leadership and align with international economic and trade standards with high-level opening up and institutional innovation at its core. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership plays a significant role in promoting regional trade ties. The number of RCEP certificates of origin and visas issued by the National Trade Promotion System has risen by a quarter on a yearly basis by the first half of the year. That's according to a survey by the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade released during its presser today. Meanwhile, enterprises' ability to use RCEP trade rules continues to improve. Nearly 7,000 certificates of origin involving cumulative rules of origin were issued. Officials from the Trade Promotion Agency said the trade rules under the RCEP framework are effectively lowering the threshold for tariff cuts and stabilizing cooperation in industries and supply chains. China's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao expressed strong concerns in a weekend meeting with the European Union's trade chief that the bloc will launch an anti-subsidy investigation into China's electric vehicles. China criticized the move as a blatant act of protectionism in the name of fair competition. The EU declared that the investigation will be in line with EU and WTO rules and involve engagement with Chinese authorities and businesses. According to Moody's, Chinese electric car exports have surged in recent months. When considering exports of all types of cars, China has already surpassed Germany and is on track to surpass Japan this year as the largest car exporter globally. To take a closer look, our reporter Natalie Carney reports from Munich on the role of Chinese EVs in the European market.
BYD, Great Wall Motors, NIO, iWays. EVs carrying Chinese brands on their grills are no stranger to European streets. Yet there may be some roadblocks up ahead. The European Commission's probe into Chinese state subsidies for EV manufacturers has come as welcome relief for an embattled European industry. But for consumers, the lower price points of Chinese vehicles has been seen as a positive force to drive that shift to cheaper transportation.
I think the quality is very good, and you don't need to talk about the software. The Chinese are, of course, better when it comes to pricing than Volkswagen. But that is definitely the advantage for the Chinese.
But is this really the case? The cheapest Chinese EV brand in Europe is BYD's Dolphin, which sells for around $31,000 whereas France's Renault SA have long marketed their Dacia Spring as Europe's most affordable electric car, starting at roughly $22,000. And German manufacturer Volkswagen is preparing to launch its most affordable EV yet, the ID.1, with a starting price point of around $20,000. But one thing stands out. All three of these cars are manufactured in China, where they all benefit from low production costs, years of investment and expertise, and supply chain advantages.
Currently, the Volkswagen Group produce electric vehicles at 3 different Chinese factories, while the other German auto giant BMW has just invested some $2.2 billion into a factory in China that will be dedicated to the production of zero-emission electric vehicles as well as their batteries.
The European Commission's anti-subsidy investigation will also target these European brands producing in China. However, when it comes to popularity, long-standing European brands are still coming out on top in the EV market. Research by the European Automotive Manufacturers Association shows that not even 4% of electric car sales in the EU last year were Chinese brands, such as Aiways, but that number is growing.
These are fully engineered cars and very well-built cars. There is regulations in Europe which you have to fulfill. And the German market is actually a very, very demanding market. So just like German manufacturers have been able to enter into the Chinese market, you'll have the same thing likewise happen over here to actually improve the total situation of battery electric vehicles around the world.
While this probe could lead to tariffs on some Chinese-produced EVs, European manufacturers who rely heavily on sales in China have a lot to lose if relations with Beijing sour. German automakers alone sold 4.6 million cars there last year. Some European powers are also concerned what this could mean for overall business ties with their largest trading partner. In the meantime, targets to save CO2 emissions by getting drivers into electric vehicles powered by green energy risk disappearing in the rearview mirror. Natalie Carney, CGTN, Munich.
The world's largest plane maker, Airbus, has agreed to double its production capacity in China to meet increasing domestic and broader Asia market demand. My colleague Michael Wong sat down with Julie Kitcher, Executive Vice President of Communications and Corporate Affairs of Airbus, for more on how the company views China's efforts to promote sustainable transportation. They began by talking about how advances in technology are supporting the aviation industry to lower its carbon footprint.
Sure. So first and foremost, aviation is built on pioneering technology and innovation. And so that will be the absolute key as we move to a decarbonized aviation for the future. So it's really the intersection of technology, the energy transition and the regulatory policy. So we need to triangulate the three to support the overall system. Now, we're exploring sustainable aviation fuel, which in reality can be used up to 50% in the aircraft today, but it's available in a very, very small proportion. So we need to stimulate both the production and the demand for sustainable aviation fuel to create a market. And then when it comes to hydrogen, we obviously need to be able to progress on the technology bricks. We're exploring currently hydrogen combustion and fuel cell propulsion technology. So working on these technology bricks, we have the ambition to introduce the first commercial aircraft in 2035. And to get there, we obviously need the certification. So again, the regulatory environment. And we need to be able to stimulate the entire hydrogen ecosystem, storage, distribution, availability of green hydrogen at affordable prices at the airport.
Right, so hydrogen-powered flights may be a bit of a long-term goal. What about sustainability milestones for the next, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years?
Absolutely. So we're working on a number of different solutions. It starts really, it's the whole life cycle of the aircraft on an environmental roadmap perspective. So we start with, from the design, the supply chain. Obviously, we purchase 80% from the supply chain. So the suppliers are a key part of the value chain. With the engine OEMs, we're looking at the operability of the aircraft, the maintenance and the afterlife with recycling. And we have actually a new recycling center coming online in Chengdu, where we'll be able to recycle up to 90% of the weight of an aircraft. So it's really an end-to-end perspective on the value chain. And then it's all about sustainable aviation fuel. I said it, we can take up to 50% today. We're working on the technological capacity to have up to 100% before the end of the decade. So we need to stimulate the availability of SAF at affordable prices. There are various technological pathways available, and we believe that China is really well placed to play a leading role in that landscape.
Right, so then let's talk about China, Julie, because China, of course, has a dual carbon goal of peaking carbon emissions by 2030, carbon neutrality by 2060. What are you seeing here in China in terms of this country's efforts to really promote sustainable transportation?
Well, look, I'm here in Beijing. It's the Global Sustainable Transport Forum. And I would say it's very positive to be in the same place as the actors that can really move together to decarbonize the transportation system, and particular in China, where there is wide-scale investment, technology being really dedicated to the decarbonization of the transport system. And with the growing social demographic and the propensity to travel, it will be absolutely necessary for China to continue that journey in terms of the investment to be able to grow in a sustainable way. So I'm confident that China really has what it takes to play a leading role in the decarbonization of the transportation system and the aviation sector in particular.
Foreign institutions have expressed positive views on the A-share market and China's economic growth. Roy Green, chief China economist at TS Lombard, has said the company has upgraded its ratings for Chinese stocks because the risk-reward on Chinese equities is continuing to improve. He also expressed optimism about China's fourth-quarter economic performance and the government's stimulus measures. Goldman Sachs' latest macro research report also predicts that China's economic growth will gradually pick up from 3.2% in the second quarter to 5% in the fourth quarter. China's full-year growth is expected to be 5.4%. JP Morgan Chase and ANZ Bank both upgraded their forecast for the country's GDP growth by 0.2 percentage points to 5% and 5.1%, respectively. Meanwhile, those working in finance have noticed that some foreign investors are raising bets on China through private equity firms. Take a listen.
We've seen several of the large private equity companies that have split themselves up into the Asia and North America arms. So they're not pulling out of China. They are doubling down on China. That's, I think, a much larger source of additional cash from the private equity sector that is going to be flowing into China. I do think it's a good time to have an initial position. Now, as we look at what's happening in the property sector and the regional banks and the local governments, there's going to have to be additional money provided. When we see that happening, then we're going to see there'll be one day where we're going to see a big upward move in the A-share market.
Some foreign investment outflows have led stock prices to fluctuate, again triggering rumors that overseas investors are exiting the country. What really happened, and what's the situation with foreign capital? Let's take a closer look.
According to China International Capital Corporation's research report, foreign capital was estimated to take up 3.7% of China's A-share market and about 8.8% of the free market value as of mid-year. Data shows that the current qualified foreign institutional investors fund mainly comes from Singapore, UK, France, the US, and the Middle East. CICC said recent foreign capital outflow was mainly due to the dollar appreciation, which puts pressure on emerging market funds. Besides, adjustments to China's growth expectations at the end of July also cooled foreign investment. In fact, BlackRock made it clear that the fund it is closing this month was for offshore investors only, while its onshore funds would remain open. The company repeated that its commitment to the Chinese market remains steadfast. Such commitment has been echoed by investors in the Middle East, who are accelerating investments in China. Abu Dhabi sovereign investor Mubadala Investment Company has just opened its Beijing office. Middle East sovereign wealth funds have also invested in about 60 A-share listed companies. Li Yanxing, Su Xinbo, CGTN, Beijing.
You're watching Global Business, still to come. We'll look at how Hangzhou is focusing on green energy and sustainability to create the first ever carbon-neutral Asian Games.
What are you still standing here for? Come join us.
Take a flight, catch a train, hop on a bus. We are traveling to places of different cultures and languages.
Мы ведем репортажи из Алматы, Казахстан,
à Dubaï, aux Émirats Arabes Unis,
desde las calles de Río de Janeiro,
للمشاريع في Dhaka, Bangladesh.
And what are we looking for?
Infrastructure along the Belt and Road countries.
Stories of how they promote growth and improve lives.
Only on our special series of the New Silk Road.
Ensuring a green and sustainable games was one of the major principles in preparing for the 19th Asian Games in Hangzhou. Now the operation of the Games is still being underpinned by those principles. At a press conference today, organizers stressed how the concept of a Green Games was incorporated in every aspect, especially in venue construction, rainwater recycling, and maximizing the use of natural light. They've also introduced infrastructure with low carbon emissions. For example, the main torch tower is fueled by methanol rather than natural gas, which is safe, eco-friendly, and cost-effective.
Regarding venue arrangements, out of a total of 54 venues, only 13 were newly built. We make full use of the existing venues across the province and universities. Also, like the Fuyang Water Sports Center features a roof rainwater collection system. The one-time investment is a bit high, but with the reclaimed water system, we can save 35% of water usage every month. When the Asian Games were postponed last year, we did a calculation and found that 1,000 tons of water can be saved every day.
Before the Games, the main focus was on venue construction, promoting the use of renewable materials and strengthening the resource utilization of construction waste. During the competition, we focused on waste and increasing the level of recycling. For example, our Asian Games village produced a large amount of lunch boxes and milk boxes during the Games. We recycle and reuse some of them, and some of them have been converted into souvenirs for low carbon point redemption.
Since its successful bid for the 19th Asian Games, Hangzhou and the other 5 co-host cities in Zhejiang province have been dedicated to making the event green, smart, cultural, economical, and beneficial for all. In today's edition, let's take a closer look at how the Games will reduce carbon emissions and save energy by using green power.
Upon entering the aquatic sports arena in Hangzhou Olympic Sports Center, visitors are greeted by a warm and inviting atmosphere, thanks to the 210 light pipes at the venue and the main stadium. These light pipes channel natural daylight from outside into the arena, resulting in significant energy savings of an estimated 100,000 kilowatt-hours per year.
We've managed to implement venue-specific green power trading, ensuring a green power supply for the entire facility.
All venues for the Games are entirely powered by green energy. In addition to electricity generated by local offshore wind power and photovoltaic installations, the majority of this green energy comes from China's Midwestern regions.
The green power generated from wind and solar energy in Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, and Qinghai is transported through 3 ultra-high voltage transmission lines via the region's internal power grid.
Real-time tracking of these green energy sources' utilization and their precise allocation is made possible through the Asian Games Green Power Traceability System. Since the launch of green power trading, the cumulative trading volume has reached to a reduction of about 76,000 tons of standard coal consumption. Zhejiang also aims to make the best use of each kilowatt-hour of green power. Over 120 energy-efficient LED lights decorate the Jinhua Sports Center's hall. They're brighter and can reduce power consumption by half compared to conventional lights. Hangzhou is dedicated to creating the first ever carbon-neutral Asian Games, and efforts to this end are aimed at minimizing carbon emissions and implementing carbon offsetting measures. These include donating carbon credits from both organizations and individuals and participating in carbon inclusion initiatives. In Hangzhou's Yuhang district, over 200 tons of daily household waste are recycled and counted as carbon reductions, with the data subsequently uploaded to a carbon inclusion platform.
We hope that Green Hangzhou Asian Games will help to promote the concept of zero waste, leading Hangzhou to become a waste-free region where green and low-carbon lifestyles are widely embraced.
Over the past decade, 152 countries and 32 international organizations have signed up to the Belt and Road Initiative. As the initiative hits its 10-year mark, CGTN's reporters have traveled to 22 Belt and Road nations across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America to hear of stories on collaboration, transformation, and people-to-people exchanges under the framework. In this episode, we follow Wu Bing in Egypt, who travels to New Alamein City, where a Chinese company is building 5 residential skyscrapers.
Egypt is more than 90% desert. And to deal with a growing population, the Arab nation has decided to build new cities in the middle of it. We travel 4 hours from Cairo to New Alamein City to learn about how this is all happening. In the heart of the new city, they are constructing 5 tall apartment buildings. Even from a distance, you can see the towers standing high in the desert. One of them, the Alamein Downtown Towers project, has a skyscraper that will be over 300 meters tall and become the second highest in Africa. All of this is part of Egypt's plan to make modern green cities. So let's start with the design.
The weather here gets strong sunlight and is very dry, so we designed the Alamein project as if it's an oasis in the desert.
But it's not just the design. They are also doing things while building to make it more eco-friendly.
When you are standing in the middle of the desert, the scorching heat is really burning your skin, and that means staying cool indoors also wastes a lot of energy. And the Alamein Downtown project, built by China, promises a solution, adding 1 more layers of material inside the wall to keep the heat outdoors.
Chief designer Fan Xinfeng showed us the material. It's common in China, but new to Egypt.
岩棉就是岩石的岩。对 ，walkroll 就是那 walkroll 就是那个英语翻译就是岩石的。
The material is fireproof, moisture resistant, and it keeps the heat outside, helping the room stay cooler. And in just one way, they're saving energy.
我们在这个项目各个阶段都践行了低碳环保。
We are using low-carbon, environmentally friendly methods at all stages of this project. For construction, we are using aluminum forms that can be used more times than wooden molds, saving a lot of wood. Through the project, we are aiming for a comprehensive, low-carbon, eco-friendly approach.
木材的使用。
The company's focus on green construction is also influencing local workers, and the development of these new cities is prioritizing sustainability.
I see that in our projects, all the Chinese is very care about the green building. China is very first country that will become in the future all the China that will be green building. So this will be help Egypt to be the same. And I see that in our project.
When it's done, New Alamein City will be home to over 3 million people and serve as a cooler summer destination compared to Cairo. Wu Bin, CGTN, El Alamein, Egypt.
From Urumqi, capital of China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, our reporters have embarked on a journey to Kazakhstan, Ethiopia, and Malaysia. In this episode, we join our reporter Niu Hong in Ethiopia to explore the Friendship Park and experience the local culture in Addis Ababa. The park is a symbol of the aid China has given Ethiopia and has become a popular destination for the city's residents.
a must-visit spot for anyone looking for a serene and beautiful place in the Ethiopia capital, Addis Ababa. Friendship Park boasts lush vegetation from all over Ethiopia, combined with Chinese garden design and modern fountain facilities. It's become a beloved destination for locals.
This place is gives for many purposes and functions. One of that big event is going on this area. In addition to that, wedding and birthday. This is a big place, and we cover this area.
Ethiopia has such a rich culture, and now this park is a landmark in the capital where people will hold celebrations here. It is getting closer to its national holiday, and you can see people here dressed in national costumes and filming videos for the celebration. At the highest point in the park, there's an observatory deck adorned with beautiful Ethiopian landscapes crafted from Chinese white marble. The China Communications Construction Group played a pivotal role in constructing this park from start to finish.
This project had a total investment of 400 million yuan, or about $50 million, and it was completed in just 10 months. It not only improved the river and urban environment, but also symbolizes the 50-year friendship between China and Ethiopia.
This area within the park is called Friendship Square. Its design blends traditional Chinese garden aesthetic with elements of Ethiopian culture. Featured at the center is a world map, which highlights Ethiopia in red, symbolizing humanity's journey from this place to the world.
Our chamber advocates that Chinese companies prioritize social responsibility in their business philosophy. We actively gather corporate social responsibility plans. We organize an annual charity run here, and we recently held a social responsibility forum. These initiatives also contribute to our business's development in the local community.
It's also a prime spot for couples. In fact, some come here for wedding photos, made more magical by the park's misting system. It also features several fountains, with the musical fountain within Friendship Park being a highlight. Ning Hong, CGTN, Ethiopia.
And that will do it for this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michelle Vandenberg in Beijing. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.